Toppo's power of destruction rampage continues until he is challenged by Vegeta, who unleashes his pure Saiyan rage and finally brings back the final explosion technique, an attack which he originally used against Majin Buu in an attempt to take his own life to destroy the very beast itself. Now that he has the power of a god, by using this technique, will he survive or will he die? This episode was simultaneously awesome and simultaneously kind of disappointing. I wanted to see more from Toppo. This guy was a lot of fun. After last week's episode and watching him just completely run a train over Frieza in 17, I was ready to see so much more from this character, but in this week's episode right here, he is challenged by Vegeta, who in the second half of the episode completely outclasses him, and honestly, it's really freaking satisfying. Vegeta has trained so hard to become a Super Saiyan God, then moving on to Super Saiyan Blue, and then surpassing that, and now he can quite literally nullify the abilities of the power of destruction, which is what truly gives him an edge in the battle against Toppo. That, and of course, he had the power of family and friendship on his side, as the biggest theme of this episode is that when you rely on the love and the companionship of others, it can ultimately make you stronger. This is something that you see in a lot of shonen-style battle anime and manga series. We've seen it before in Dragon Ball, so I'm not surprised to see it here. Seeing it come from Vegeta, however, is very shocking. The elements of this character, which were not fully introduced until the end of the Majin Buu saga, where he did make that big sacrifice. So it's only fitting that he would bring that technique back in this episode right here, and due to having the power of a god, he is actually able to withstand the force and power of this technique and actually does not die in the process. In fact, it's so powerful that he's actually able to defeat Toppo. Toppo's gone! He's not in the tournament anymore, and it's now down to the 4 remaining fighters of Universe 7 to go up against Jiren. The hype is real. The next, month and a half is going to be filled with just these dudes fighting against Jiren, and they better give us a show. But this episode right here was pretty freaking good. I didn't like it as much as last week's episode, as I felt the animation and the artwork was a little stronger in the last one and more consistent. This episode, though, did have its moment. The first half of the episode, though, is just Toppo just stating his dominance to the entire tournament and just making a fool out of 17, and even Frieza, who actually does return to the episode and even helps out 17 in a couple of scenes. It even uses his tried and true paralysis techniques, but that doesn't do anything to Toppo. Toppo just destroys these guys. It's when the battle with Goku, Vegeta, and Jiren starts mixing up with Toppo's battle that things start to get chaotic, and suddenly, Toppo and Vegeta start to fight against one another. At first, Toppo just makes a fool of Vegeta. He's bouncing him all over the place, hitting him with big attacks, and just making his brand new Super Saiyan form look completely foolish. That is until the second half of the episode when we get to learn that these big top dogs from the Pride Troopers have their pride, but they toss away everything else. Anything that might get in the way, whether it be attachments, friends, or family, and they strictly focus on just getting stronger. But Vegeta is not one to cast things aside. He always holds on to the past. He loves his family. He loves Bulma, Trunks, Bulla. He's made great friends with Kabe and wants to train the other Saiyans from that universe. And most importantly, he simply just has his pride as a Saiyan. Vegeta holds on to things, and they actually strengthen him, and that gives him the edge in the battle when he just decides to just start destroying Toppo, reading all of his techniques, outmaneuvering him, and doing some really slick choreography while we're at it. We got to see some classic Vegeta techniques in this episode, like the final flash, but I did not expect to see the final explosion technique. We even get a flashback reminding us of how big of a deal this technique is. The last time he used it against Majin Buu, it took his very life by just completely ripping him apart and blowing him up from the inside. It was one of the biggest Vegeta moments of the series, and dare I say it, maybe still his biggest moment. But this right here was pretty great. The fact that he was able to withstand the very force of it, and that it was so powerful that it completely disintegrated all of Toppo's power of destruction abilities, sending him flying out of the ring, as well as basically turning the entire power of, or the Tournament of Power ring into just rubble. Everything's floating around in space after this technique. So we're going to see all these characters jumping around to all of these different platforms, which I think is going to make for a very visually stimulating final battle of this arc right here. But man, Vegeta just pulled it out of nowhere. Just this extreme Saiyan power, and that's typically how things go down in the series. I just didn't expect that this was all going to end with 4 fighters against 1 guy. I mean, clearly Universe 7 has the edge in the battle. There's only 4 minutes left, and there's 4 of them. I mean, all they have to do is just last long enough and defend against Jiren, but is Jiren really that powerful to take these guys out that quickly? I mean, he just has to knock them out of the ring at this point, and he claims that he's about to power up and get stronger at the end of the episode as he's confronted by all of his enemies, and Frieza, who is hiding somewhere. I wonder what Frieza's up to. I have a feeling Frieza's probably going to end up being like a big sacrificial player in this arc right here. Otherwise, they might actually give us a twist in seeing how this entire thing's going to end. All I know is I loved this episode. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super? This was a solid addition to the series. I want more Toppo. I'm not gonna lie, I felt like we didn't get enough. I wanted to see him throw down with Goku maybe at least one more time, but in the back of my mind I always felt, and I've been saying this in my previous reviews, that I felt it was gonna be Gohan or Vegeta who was gonna be going up against Toppo and taking him out. Vegeta did it, and it makes perfect sense. And it was really satisfying how it all went down, especially how in the last episode they made him seem nearly indestructible, and the fact that you couldn't even just barely touch him or attack him without getting hit by the power of destruction really speaks volumes for what he was doing at that point. But Vegeta and Goku have been training in the ways of the god as well, and they were able to nullify all the techniques. It is worth mentioning, when you see Vegeta attacking a lot, he does envelop his fists and his feet in this energy, which allows him to break through all of his techniques, delivering all types of great moments. Like, the choreography in this episode is subtle, but it's there. Like, little moments where, like, Toppo is just trying to stand, and Vegeta just kicks his feet, knocking him under just so that he can flip around and kick him right in the face. Little moments like that that just fly by, you can see this is the moment where Vegeta is reading every single thing that he's doing and just playing with him at that point. But that final explosion technique, man, that was awesome. It was really great to finally see that come back, and in such a ridiculous capacity, and the fact that he can use it now without killing himself. That's a big technique. Even though it didn't kill Majin Buu, it was still incredibly destructive, and it came very close, I think, to actually finishing him off. But it was the perfect technique to actually end up defeating Toppo, and luckily no one else was seriously damaged by the technique. But Jiren is still standing. Things are going to get crazy. The final battle is upon us, and I honestly don't know how it's going to go down and who's going to go first. I mean, it's clearly probably going to end the way we all expect with Goku versus Jiren. But there could be some really nice surprises here, and I can't wait to see how they're going to end this arc and this part of Dragon Ball Super, as it is going to be ending in March. I know we're going to get more in the future with a movie and maybe even the next series. So I'm really hoping they end in a way that's going to feel natural, but also will be building hype for the next part of the series, because I just want more. I'm loving this. I'm loving all of this Dragon Ball Super right now. I'm at, like, the absolute height of my fandom for Dragon Ball. Like, I've always really loved it. I've always had it on DVD, and I watched it in the Toonami days. But, I mean, like, even, like, right now, like, we have Dragon Ball FighterZ on PS3, Xbox, and PC, and that game is freaking awesome. I have a lot of Dragon Ball FighterZ videos planned, by the way, guys. I've been doing a lot of recording over the last week and playing the game maybe more than I should have, which is probably the real reason why a lot of my videos were late this week. But still, you have to understand as how much I'm enjoying the show in that game. Just my love for Dragon Ball just will not stop. And this episode right here was classic. It had some really great distinctive looking moments. The final big confrontation between Vegeta and Toppo at the very end of the episode looked great. Toppo in particular, I loved the lighting of the black and the purple. He just looked so evil as he was fighting back and throwing like his giant attack forward, which was basically just 2 giant balls of destruction just smacked into one. But it still looked really awesome as they were both flying at each other. This wasn't a perfect episode of Dragon Ball Super, but as a fan of the series and the spectacle and just the fun and watching this with friends, this was a great episode. I'm giving this one a 5 out of 5, and you guys should be checking it out. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode, Vegeta's battle with Toppo. Were you surprised by it? Were you disappointed? Did you want to see more Toppo? What do you think is going to happen in the big final battle with Jiren? Who's going to lose first? Who's going to defeat him? How is the series going to end? Tell me all of your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay down there, baby.